Hi everyone, welcome back to another ramen rants. Today I'm eating shin ramen. A lot of water, so I can't really show you exactly because I don't want to spill it everywhere, but it's really nice because I was pescatarian for a while, which kind of limited like the different kinds of instant ramen I can have, and now I can just go crazy and try whatever I want. Okay, it's a bit spicier than I remember it. My thoughts on uni and studying history here in London. I really enjoy, oh my god, there's a lot of ramen in this. I really enjoy studying history here. I think one of my biggest takeaways so far is that history, like as a discipline or as a study, is so much more complicated. When you think of studying history, it's kind of like, oh, you study the events that happen. That's in a very simplistic sense, I guess, kind of what it is. But as I've been learning more, I realize that the complexity of history comes from a vast amount of themes that there are, the different approaches that you can take, whether it's economic, social, gender, political, and then also the amount of narratives there are. I remember there was a really great quote when we first started in one of our readings by Sarah Mazza. It said that history is a series of silences. Rather than thinking of history as the sole main narrative that it is, you also have to think about all the other people and stories that aren't being told because of the main like canon history. And something else that I've learned, I think because I take a lot of ancient history courses, is that there are very few sources from ancient history. It's like two-sided, where on one hand I'm just amazed that historians and archaeologists could really pull the amount of information that they have from like such like bare minimum objects and texts. Other hand, I'm kind of like, how do we know this is true? The series of events that happen are so biased by the authors that wrote, like, and there's only like a couple sources, so you can't really like fact check or like cross over and compare sources as much. I don't know, I feel like history just seems more scientific now than it ever did, because you're like trying to quantify or you're trying to justify certain events through evidence. As for living in London, I think back at home in the US, I get a lot of questions. Why would you study abroad? And why wouldn't you just go to a US school? Because there are like hundreds of US colleges, right? One of the main reasons why I wanted to go abroad was because A, I'm studying history. I'm more interested in medieval and ancient history as of now. I thought England would be a better place to study than the United States because there literally is just more history here. You're just surrounded by more. Obviously, the US has a lot of history. A lot of that history, like Native American history, was also erased. So it almost feels like the United States history started when Columbus landed. Even though it didn't, that's sometimes how it seems. The second reason why is because I've always really liked the idea of living abroad. Staying in the United States never really felt like the ideal situation. I've always wanted to travel. A lot of times people can get caught up in saying that they want to move abroad. Things that people say, I feel like frequently, but then never actually happen. I don't want to be someone who says that they want to live abroad for 30 years, stays in the US, gets a job in the US, never leaves the country. And so I thought this was kind of a good breaking point, breaking a barrier in a sense. It's like, oh, I've already moved abroad once. I kind of have more of a sense of how to do it now. It should only get easier from here, hopefully, right? Although I really like living in London and I like the variety that there is, the amount of restaurants that there are, I don't feel like I've completely fallen in love with the city, and that might be just because I've lived here for only about like 6 months or so now. It's not somewhere right now I can see myself living in for the next 20 years. Like, I definitely see myself living in here after uni, getting like a starting job here because there's so much opportunity in London. After a couple years of that and maybe like, you know, padding up my CV a bit, I'm not sure if I'd really want to stay. This is gonna sound weird, but sometimes I really feel like London is very small. If you Google things to do when you come here, pretty much everything is around the area that I live in, which is awesome. But then at the same time, sometimes it's just like, what else is there to do? I don't know why, but this ramen is a lot spicier than I remember it being. Kind of burning a little bit. I think something else that I found interesting, right now I am studying the subject that I want. I'm very lucky how close my accommodation is to campus, and I haven't had to really struggle with making friends here. Right now I'm living like the dream life that I imagined back in high school. I can genuinely say that I feel like very happy and very like satisfied with my life right now. And it's kind of strange because some days when I don't feel like that, because obviously we don't feel happy 24/7. It's kind of like a weird mentality where if I feel, I don't know, sad or something one day, in my brain I'm like, oh, why are you sad? You're literally living the life that you imagined for yourself. I like watching those YouTube videos where people just going about their day, but it like looks very aesthetic and pretty, and maybe they're in a different country, and I'm like, wow, that's a dream life right there. I think it goes to put everything in perspective. Even when you're living your ideal life, like, it's still just life. It doesn't magically become like a fairy tale. What I'm trying to get from this is that no matter what stage you are, it's important to appreciate where you are in the moment, because if you're always thinking about what's next, you're never actually going to be able to experience the things that are around you, experience like everything that the moment you are in right now has to offer. A lot of what's tied to social media right now is monetization, brand deals, being able to make money. And I think it's really led to this idea that in order to have the life that you want, you have to have certain products. I think it's important to remember when you're watching these videos that social media is a business. I think everybody, you know, to some level wants to have money, wants to be wealthy. I've definitely bought things that I've seen on social media and I'm like, oh my god, this would be perfect if I had it. It can be helpful to be conscious that these products are just items. Well, that's the end of today's ramen rant. I hope that I didn't sound ungrateful at all, because I really am grateful for everything that's in my life, and I really can't wait to just share more of it. I hope you guys have a great week. Bye!